Well, hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you and helping my good friend and colleague, Terry Matthews, out for Harmonize to Energize. I'm Beth Lendrum, and Harmonize to Energize is an hour where we get together and we talk about JIN SHIN JYUTSU. And just a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit about myself. I have been involved with JIN SHIN JYUTSU for 18
Siri, set timer for 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
And we have, I've been involved with JIN SHIN JYUTSU for 18 years. And I do have a weekly flow community that meets on Wednesdays. And for those of you who have some JIN SHIN JYUTSU experience, I also lead a monthly mastermind series. And this week we are in the midst, or this month, we are in the midst of studying everything there is to know about the depths. Coming up in November, we will be talking about the 7th, 8th, and 9th depth. And JIN SHIN JYUTSU also on the JIN SHIN JYUTSU Spirit, Mind, and Body.com website. There are upcoming classes that are listed. I know we do have one coming up this weekend on Saturday with Sarah Harper and Jill Pasquinelli on the rebirth and renewal, the process of regeneration. I'll put my contact information in the chat. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'd be happy to hear from you. And for now, without any further ado, we have today's mystery guest coming on, Tom Stevens. There he is. I'm going to remove my spotlight so that I am not spotlighted and that you are. I'm just not. There we go. Beautiful. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and it's great to have everyone here. I thought I'd start off with some self-helps that Terry asked me to share some self-helps, and we'll work up to the point where we actually do the Okay, so one of my favorite self-helps is if you take your right hand and hold your left thumb and then stick out your index finger and grab it with the rest of the fingers. So you're holding, right hand is holding left thumb, left hand is gripping the index finger, and as we know, the thumb is worry and left is past. So this is covering worry from the past, and right is the present, and index is fear. So this is fear in the present and worry in the past. I had Rosemary, who is 93, hold it when she was having a tooth pulled and when she was having a shot in the eye, the Avastin. And I held it when I was in a plane crash. If I'm not the pilot and I'm in a plane crash, I like to do this. And now the other one is, if you take your left hand and go to the back of your knee, which is the 8, left hand to the right back of knee, it will cool the body down. On a hot day, you can cool yourself down. If you're in a sweat lodge, it's a good thing to do. Now, if you take your right hand and you hold behind your left knee, you will warm up the body. Now, one of the trickier ones is have both your palms down and stick your thumb, index, and middle finger forward and poke the index finger between the little finger and the ring finger, and the middle finger between the ring finger and the middle finger. And after you get it in that position, you grip with the rest of the hand, the ring finger and the little finger. I'm going to try it one more time. And if someone else wants to put their hand like this in the picture, that would be good too. So both palms are down and the index goes between the little finger and the ring finger. The middle goes between the ring finger and the middle. And the thumb's on the outside. You put it all the way in, and then you grip the little finger and the ring finger with the rest of your fingers, and you hold it tightly. Now, you want to hold this really tight. It should hurt a little bit where you're squeezing around the index finger. This helps the heart. If someone's having a heart attack or you're having a heart attack, you want to do this. And you don't want to let go until you got help there, because if it stops the heart attack, it'll resume again. One more time. Index finger goes between the little finger and the ring finger. Middle finger goes between the ring finger and the middle finger, and you push them all the way in. And then after they're all the way in, the rest of your fingers and your hand grips those two fingers really hard, and you hold it. If you're doing it on someone else and you squeeze it really hard and they say that hurts, they're probably not having a heart attack. But if they are, they won't complain about it hurting. By the way, if you ever need to speed up your own heart, if it slows down, just bite your little finger. If mine drops down to like 40, this will pump it up to 54. We'll actually talk about that one later on. And if you hold your 17s, the wrist, and then the other side of the wrist, and you squeeze it really hard, if you catch it early enough, you can stop a sneeze. If you catch it before that point and hold it really hard, you can stop a sneeze. If when you're going to sleep, if you want to take Boy Scout sign and put it in your palm, and then your little finger and your thumb be on the wrist, that brings in good energy, allows access to the divine, and keeps you from getting fat in the lower part of your body. Umbilicus. You can also put your thumb on the back side of the 18. Just put your thumb there, and then just go to sleep. If you can meditate, close your eyes and see the color blue or purple, you're in the theta frequency of brain waves, which is when we have our most creative dreams, we connect to the creator. And it's an excellent skill to get into it. You can Google a book by Anna Wise called High Performance Mind, and it tells how to get into theta brainwave frequencies. But it's a good way to be creative. If when you wake up from a dream and you want to remember something, if you can see the color red, so have something red in your bedroom or nearby, just a little thing, and just look at it briefly. That's the save to disk command in the brain, alpha frequency. And I have a question, you'll have to answer it on your own. What does Mary Burmeister has a word for glycogen? Who knows what it is? I'm not gonna, that's rhetorical. Now I want to go over before JIN SHIN JYUTSU session, what I do. And to prepare, one of the things is I want protection for me. So one way is to visualize I'm in a wetsuit and I zip it up. Visualize you're in a wetsuit and you zip it up. You can visualize someone else is in a wetsuit and zip it up. And this is protection. And you want to energize yourself. One other way for protection is to picture you're standing with a spider web coming out of your right hand and you're whirling backwards in a high rate of speed, and you form this cylinder that you can look through, but it can't be penetrated, and it goes all the way from the heavens above down to the earth and only lets in the divine light or the light of the sun, and it's connected to the earth. That's a second protection. Another one is if you meditate on a candle or a rose in the center of the floor for 5 minutes, and then you meditate on your tongue on the roof of your mouth for 5 minutes. And then for the last 5 minutes, superimpose them both together mentally. If you do that, it'll raise your brain wave amplitude and wake up your brain. This is from Anna Wise's working with a mind mirror. Now, one of the things I once did a program on getting rid of entities at the Dowsing Club, and I was to introduce Roberta Billingsley, who's an old-time Boulder JIN SHIN person and just a delightful lady, and she was noted for being able to do this. And she was to speak for an hour and tell us about it. And I said, "What do you do?" And Roberta stood up and said, "I just say, you guys get out of here." She sat down. Well, if it's good enough for Roberta, it's good enough for me. So after I do all my other stuff, I say, "You guys get out of here." Now, you've heard of someone doing an autopsy, and you learn a lot about the body when you do an autopsy, but you don't want to do it on yourself. And too many people actually, all they do is cut up themselves instead of, when you're doing healing, you're looking for wholeness. And so you want to picture what you're looking for, and then you'll find it. So picture, you say this to your mind if you're working with someone or yourself. Let me feel your harmony. Let me feel your beauty. Let me feel your wholeness. Let me feel your love. Let me feel a time, and you think of a time when that person or you were just delightful and cheerful and at your maximum. Now, one of Wayne's stories is kids with muddy feet came into grandma's kitchen and tracked mud all over. And grandma had to do two things. Excuse me. She had to clean up the mud, the physical part, and we call that the meridian energy, which is text 2 for JIN SHIN practitioners. Or if you're holding a finger, it's the sides of the finger are the meridians, the physical body. If you're holding a finger, the top and the bottom of the finger are the energetic body, which is the second thing grandma had to convince the kids not to do it again, not to come in with muddy feet and get it all over. And so those are the two things we do in a JIN SHIN session usually, is we address the physical and then we address the energetic. And the energetic a lot of times is the cause. There's the kids running in the kitchen with muddy feet is what caused the mud on the floor, but you still have to clean up the mud. In other words, you want to get to self-love or wholeness before you start on yourself or on someone else. You want to be energized. Now, I'm a little reluctant. I was reluctant to do this for very long I think I'm going to tell this story and then I'll play a meditation tape where you'll hold your palm and your different fingers and you'll listen to Mary say the positive words of your different meridians when they're in harmony. And I was flying in a plane and the engine quit. I was in the back seat. My wife Ruth was flying and it was at night. And we had to do a crash landing in Boulder. I said, go to the IBM parking lot. And we came in there and the girl next to me was from Korea and visiting. I put her head down and pulled her belt tight, pulled my belt tight and bent over. And as we touched down, I saw the speed was 137 miles an hour. And the plane was trashed and fuel was dripping down, the engine was twisting and the door was open there. I let this girl's seatbelt go who was visiting from Korea and threw her out the door and I got out and Tom Chaw, who was in the co-pilot seat, who's a pilot and a pharmacist, came around and he was helping my wife Ruth. He held under the armpits, I held the calves and I had to rip the seat out of the plane to get her foot loose. And we carried her about 150 feet away in case the plane was going to blow. Because just before we went in, I prayed, God, don't let us burn. We got there and I felt her heart was stopping. And so I did that heart grip and I held it tight. And someone else I had hold the calves and they put all the things on me and my heart rate was 160. And I remember Wallace Blackhelt told me once that to heal, you have to have your heart rate up, and he popped 3 hot coals in his mouth, which is pretty tough, I thought. Anyways, so I'm holding this grip and I just kept yelling at the ambulance driver to go, go, go. We got in the ambulance and raced to Boulder Hospital. And the surgeon, once they got hooked up to the machine, I could hear her heart was okay. And the ER surgeon is sewing up, her whole face was smashed from the dash, and he was sewing it up because it was bleeding fast. And I tried left hand over a wound and right hand, and it'll make the swelling go down. My heart rate was 160. And when I did this, in less than 9 seconds, it went from like 3 inches swollen up right down to normal, just like it deflated it. Then I switched right as for closing an open wound, put my right hand there, and he's sewing as fast as he can. And then the surgeon came in. Now, when they operate on your eye, they can't use any painkiller because they need the tension in the eye and all those muscles. So she wasn't getting any painkiller. So I dropped down to her feet and I held my right hand on the 5, left hand on the opposite 16. In other words, I held my right hand on the center of the ankle, 45 degrees down from the bone, my left hand on the same ankle on the outside, 45 degrees down from, and I just held it gently. Special Body Energy 3 and Text 2, and it kills pain any place in the body. And the special energy flows in Text 2, you can hold as long as you want. Normally you do a session for 40 minutes or there's a time limit, but here you can hold it as long as you want. And since they couldn't give her any pain and the surgeon was there with a smashed face and the ER doc is sewing as fast as he can. I've never seen anyone sew that fast. I'm down then on the 5 and the 16 for pain. And I stayed there as long as I could hear the monitor beeping with the heart and everything. And I was there for about 20 hours and I called Billy Watkins and I asked her what to do. And she said a bunch of things that I wrote down. Let me just. I'm going to play the positive things that Mary said about each one of the meridians are fingers when they're harmonized, starting with the palm. What I want you to do while I play it is just to hold, if it says palm, and then you'll go thumb all the way through the fingers.
Opposite fingers and toes meditation, palm and opposite soul. Smile, see within and listen. When inner life is in order, it brings joy, health, and creator abundance in all things, in all ways. There is always a way to help myself, knowing of which in turn can help others. There is always an alternative with knowing fingers and toes. If unable to be anything else, smile and be the breath I am. Instead of show me, open one's eyes and see for myself. Be one's own testimony. Be happiness. Know that there are no ways to happiness. Happiness is. Thumb and little toe. Smile. Drop the shoulders in awareness and understanding of know myself. Be it is. Unload all dirt, dust, and greasy grime to receive the cosmic abundance. Index finger and ring toe. Be the focusing on harmonizing. Know that self-change starts with self-study. All is in the process of change, including myself. Each day is new. All is new, including myself. I am a precious one of a kind, so waste not today and yesterdays and tomorrow. Smile and know myself. Be the now. Middle finger and middle toe. Simply getting to know myself. Be it is. Be is fun. Fun is to be. Be in the flow. Be the flow. In the flow there is no accumulating. No thing. Nothing. Changing problems into projects. Ring finger and index toe. Smile. Drop the shoulders. Relax. Melt the shoulders into the toes. Exhale. Unload all the dirt, dust, and greasy grime. Inhale. Receive in abundance the purified cosmic breath of life while holding jumper cabling, ring finger, and index toe. Breathing, exhaling, unloading, and inhaling. Receiving. Become easier and rhythmic. Mental clarity, physical energy, and calming of the nervous system starts taking place. A sense of total peace. Smile, know myself. Be it is. In it, all answers are provided. Smile. It is as it is, and know as it is, so it is. Be the now. Knowing all one's miseries are the result of one's ignorance of myself. I cannot accept that. Change can't to won't, and see that change in the picture. To change a negative as it is, simply change myself. Little finger and big toe. Wisdom always recognizes wholeness, oneness, while ignorance looks at, specializes in a part or parts. See the fingers and toes in wholeness and not as separate. The non-secret secret. One can be a little service to others or myself in parts. Until one knows myself, know that to be the breath of life is to be the phenomena and the dynamic forces in mind and body. One begins to feel the rhythmic beating of the heart, feel the spine straightening up and the whole being becoming weightless. Breathing becomes easier and rhythmic. A smile begins to surface from deep within, bringing with it a total sense of cosmic, unconditional love and peace. Let's pause and give the body a big hug. Remember to be the focusing on the harmonizer of the disharmony always, and not the focusing on the disa.
Those were the words that Mary put in book 1, 2, and 3, JIN SHIN Self-Help books 1, 2, and 3. In 1993, I gave myself a gift, 2 weeks JIN SHIN vacation to Arizona. And for a week, I studied book 1, book 2, and book 3, the self-help books. And then for the second week, I took a class from Sarah Harper, who's an excellent instructor, and I challenge each one of you to take at least 1 or 2 classes from her on teaching self-help. I came back and I taught it for 25 years at Adams School District 50. And one of the things we did was opposite fingers and toes. Now you can just hold the fingers on yourself, or you can hold another person's finger and then the opposite toe, and you go through them at 5 minutes or 3 minutes per finger. Now, I had taken Wayne's class, and at the end he had the immune system, and I wrote it all down on the cover, and I went to visit my mother in Florida. She had pneumonia, was in the hospital with a temperature and a cough. And so I did JIN SHIN with her, maybe 8 o'clock at night for an hour and a half. I did what I should have done with the immune system, and then I did every other flow that I'd written on that page, and came back the next morning about 9 o'clock. And she was excited and enthralled. She said, I was up all night. It was glorious. I feel great. The temperature had gone completely down to normal. The cough had gone away. She was explaining JIN SHIN to the Baptist church people that were visiting her. And after that, she got silk pajamas and silk sheets. So I'd kneel on the floor and I could slide my hand in. And whenever I went to visit every 3 months in Florida, for several years, I'd do JIN SHIN every 8 hours with my mother, and then all the nurses that worked with her, I'd do a session, and a lot of it was, in any case, it was popular. I got a call, and someone had called Scottsdale. They recommended me, and this person was going to have an operation, maybe have her hand amputated because she had gangrene. And the doctor said she was going into the hospital in about an hour and a half, and I drove over to the house and came in the door, and we had limited time. The family's on. I threw the cushions off the couch and started the 15 flow, of course, and did the flows right up to the minute we went to Rose Hospital, and they took her into the operating room. And then I did a session twice a day, one morning and evening, some of them usually 3 hours, for 45 days, and worked with her. We did everything. She was a guitar player and a JIN SHIN practitioner, so she'd take her own pulse and say, I'd like this. And it was kind of like being at a smorgasbord, whatever you want, you got. And I would do the flows. And she was a vegan. The hospital was giving her mac and cheese. And of course, I got purified water and quinoa and millet pudding and all the right foods, went to Vitamin Cottage and loaded it up. And the doctors they were amazed. They said, I don't know what gods you're praying to, but it all healed and turned pink and got better. And I was reminded of it because she produced this album and is coming with it, and that was 28 years ago. And it gives me a good feeling every time I see what a wonderful young lady she is. Now, I was teaching a self-help class, and I also do animals. And this lady had a Dalmatian. She said, he just tears the house apart and lick at his feet and all. And I said, well, I'll do a class at my house, bring the dog. So she did. And these 6 other ladies were there for the class and laid the dog down on the floor. And I did the diaphragm, which is what you do if the dog doesn't like you to leave, you know, a diaphragm flow. You hold 11 right behind the neck here on the first thoracic vertebrae, and 25, which is the sit bone if you're riding a horse, the bone that hits the saddle, and be very careful and gentle as you get to the sit bone on a dog or a horse. And anyways, I held those 2. The dog went to sleep and was snoring. Her husband came, got off work, and had hurt his neck, so I put him in the recliner, and I went in and I did a 8 and 16 for opposite neck, and the 8 is the behind the knee on the outside, and the 16 is down below the ankle. And he went to sleep and started snoring. So I had the dog and the husband snoring while I taught the class of working with animals. I talked about, you know, how you can put left hand over a burn and right hand here to extract the pain and the swelling, and how to do that with squirrels that had power wire burns up at the Humane Society up in Evergreen. And then, of course, if it's an open cut, you switch and you have right hand over and left hand back, and that closes the cut. I was teaching a class at the Gaia School in Boulder on all these hyperactive kids, and one of them cut his hand about 2 inches. So I put my hand, right hand over, left hand there. I had all the kids in the class stack up that way, their hands, and we did it for 5 minutes. And we let go, and the cut, no bleeding, no cut, just a trace of a pink line there. The kids all went back running around. They weren't impressed, but it impressed the daylights out of me. And then I had one lady that would come, she'd bring her dog and her horse, and the dog would come in. I had to do 45 minutes for her and 45 minutes for the dog. They went back in the horse trailer and did the horse. The 4 is easy to get to on a horse. And of course, a quickie for hip problems is the right 4 flow, or the anchor step, the first step in the flow. I had a Great Dane that had hip problems, and for 2 years I did an hour JIN SHIN with her every day. She'd lie under the table when I had people come. She always picked the correct side. In other words, after I did all my stuff, I decided which side I had to sit on. She was always correct. And now one of the things too is, if it were left up to me, it's downright confusing. And that's the way the energy goes in your hands, left up, right down. So if you put them opposite, it's like taking 2 magnets and putting the North and the South Pole together, and the energy flows. And so the idea is that that's what you're doing to get the energy flowing in the body. You're jumper cabling the energy to get from one point to the other. Not my energy, their energy, unless I'm doing it on myself, and then it's my energy. Now, I had a cat that was quite ill, and my girlfriend's cat, Tiger Lily, I was the one who put the medicine in her eyes and her ears, so she didn't like me unless she was sick. Then she came to me, and she was at the vet's, and we gave her an hour JIN SHIN and an hour Reiki every day for the week that she was at the vet's. And working with animals, I have horses that I've worked with. I was over in Hawaii visiting this guy who had a huge place, and he had a percheron that would pull the carriage for weddings in the rainforest, and it had a broken hip, and he'd chase it with a motorcycle in an 800-acre paddock And I did JIN SHIN with the horse, and the next morning I went out there and the horse came up to me, and it's like you get just the bullseye place, and the horse just goes, "Oh, that feels good," and we went to this place called the Umi Temple, the most sacred temple in Hawaii. It was on the saddle between the volcanoes on the Big Island. To get there, you drove to the end of the road, and we rode horses 40 miles round trip. And the Umi Temple had different Indian tribes would use the meridians, believe it or not. They would line up, like in the South, a mound, they build a mound, and it was lined up on the declination of the zodiac signs, which relate to the meridians. So they would send someone up to the mountain there, and when Taurus was in, that was a Taurus, and would bring all the Taurus energy back to the tribe for everyone. Back then, it was such a tight society, you could share energy. Here we can't. I have to go and get it for myself, and it doesn't get to the whole community. The Umi Temple in Hawaii had little things for oil lamps that they'd light that would be on the declination of the different meridians. And if you want to read an interesting book by Paige Bryant called Star Walker, she talks about it. Back to the, let me check the I'd like to do now the 36 breaths, which I'm going to ask everyone to give themselves a hug, where you put your fingertips under your armpit, your thumb up near the collarbone, best you can. It's called giving yourself a big hug. And I do it a little bit differently, but we're going to do 36 breaths, and I'll let you count. But the first 9, and you can count to 9 and just keep going, and you count the breath at the exhale. At the bottom of the exhale is where healing happens, and then you inhale again. So you're going to count 9, and the first 9 we're going to communicate with the divine, your idea of the divine, or when you ever felt the presence of the divine, and which is an amazing. I know I've felt it several times with some people doing JIN SHIN, and several times in near-death experiences. My plane crash was one of them. Another time I was in quicksand up with just my face sticking out 4 miles from anyone in Wyoming. Another time I was riding on a horse race, and my horse was dying of thirst, and I thought he'd die, and I was just hysterical. Suddenly a friend in a helicopter came with 20 gallons of water, and the editor of the Appalachian News, and they took my picture. I was on the cover. I was tuning into the horse just recently, and I said, he must really have wondered what the heck I was, that I was able to do that. And of course I did too, but it was a feeling of the divine for sure. But you want the divine energy, or if you're thinking of God or Buddha or whoever, you feel the divine. Then we're going to go to the next 9 breaths, and we're going to do light. And think of light anywhere. You can look at light, you know, a flashlight, a lamp, the sun, outside light. Light's extremely complicated. I was into that when I was a kid. Won a science project working on it. So you're thinking of light for 9 breaths. And you can feel light. Then we're going to something that's kind of complicated. It's, in JIN SHIN, we call it the sixth depth, but it's the energy of your body that is just you. In other words, there's all kinds of energy in the universe, but this energy is unique to you, and it's you. It's what determines you. This is diaphragm like Alfred Hitchcock. And it's the lower body is umbilicus. Then we go through fifth depth, which is bones. Think of your bones. And fourth depth, muscles. And third depth is blood circulation. And first depth is worry. So if you're holding your thumb, which is worry, worry is a prayer for something you don't want. That's from the Kojiki, the book that was everything you needed to know in 1720 AD. But doing the 36 breaths, of course, afterwards, then you're ready to do a session or receive a session or hold your fingers, and you can do the meditation. I was teaching a class after Sarah's class, and my first one was a disaster. I talked about, well, this will give you neck aches and this, and everyone else is hypochondriac. You can tell a hypochondriac they have a 9-inch by 18-inch medical alert tag. But if you take your right hand and you hold the right arch, left hand hold their little toe, that helps with energy that zigzags through the body and gives you symptoms all over, and it's a really good one. I'm running out of time of everything that I had planned on sharing, so I think probably the best thing is all the people who have given of their hearts in JIN SHIN, and to me, both the love and the information, and it's very valuable. Some have passed and some are still with us, but be grateful to the people that are teaching you. And of course, Terry has got such a wonderful, peaceful voice and demeanor, and the pictures that he shares, and he's just a really good person. So I want to thank you very much for listening. I am retired. I had 300 clients in nutrition and weight training and Mac computers, and I fired everyone who didn't do exactly what I told them to do. And I got down to about 20 or 30 people still, but I'm retired and I don't do classes or work with very many people. Thanks, Beth. Did you have some announcements?
Thank you so much, Tom. That was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing your intimate stories and just the beautiful nature of how you share JIN SHIN JYUTSU. That was lovely. So thank you. And just to, again, if you're interested in finding out more about JIN SHIN JYUTSU, you can go to the JIN SHIN JYUTSU spiritmindbody.com website. And I'll also put my contact information if you're interested in hearing more about any of my upcoming self-help classes, retreats at the beach. I also offer retreats at the beach. If you want to come for an intensive, I'm right by the beach. So if the water speaks to you, it's a beautiful space. And then I know, Terry, I'm going to see if I can put us on gallery view here. Not everybody is showing themselves, but Terry also at the end, I think, has come up with a really beautiful way of closing, and that's honoring anybody whose birthday might be in this time. Are there any Are there any Scorpios in the room? We are still in Scorpio time who would like to celebrate their birthday and be honored. And is there anybody who needs some special attention where we can all concentrate our JIN SHIN JYUTSU love your way? So Mickey, I see an ex-boyfriend, Frankie. Is that somebody who needs some extra attention, or it's their birthday, or a little bit of both? Well, I think what we'll do is let's just spend this time to rub our hands together, create some warmth, and then let's spread that light and spread that love to each and every one in this space that's come here together for Harmonize to Energize. And then continue to spread your light and your love to all those around you, your family, your neighbors, your city, and your state. And then spreading your light and your love to the United States and the whole world. The world needs your light and love now more than ever. So continue to spread it using your jumper cables. Namaste. Thank you all for being here.